Okay. So this is the homepage. Go over some intro stuff about the homepage. This is iOSBootCamp, 4 sessions. I do have some news. Next Saturday, my sister passed away, and I have to attend her funeral and memorial. And so I've already started recording for next Saturday already. I've been doing a little bit this morning for next Saturday as well. So I won't be here, but we'll make it work. I'll record it online and have you guys watch a podcast, just like if you were in here, and do the work that way. I would also like to. The lab is going to be open for you guys to work on, and I'm going to find, because I know some of you this is your max here that you'll be working with, and so I'm going to grab this lab the entire week. The next 4 weeks. So every day of the week, this lab classes, and then here it's yours to come in and work. And I'll give you the exact hours by Monday morning. I'll email it to you when the lab's going to be open. And you can come in and work all day, or even if you have a Mac at home, I know students just want to come in and get away and work on these in here. Now Deb and the lab will be upgrading our Macs this next week. We have one lower version, and we're on Xcode 8.3 or 6.3, and these are 6.2. And so she's going to upgrade for us this next week. So next Saturday it'll be virtual totally, and so but we'll make it work. It'll be okay. It's one of those deals you can't plan. So, but anyway, she had a battle cancer and for the last couple of years, and so she's not in any more pain, so that's the main thing. So, but pretty tough for her family. All right, so the makeup of the course layout is going to be kind of like a fire hose, basically. If you've ever taken any, hopefully it won't be that painful, but I'm trying to narrow it down to one app per Saturday for you to complete in the session. And then the thought is, between this Saturday and next Saturday, you run it yourself a couple times again and build that app. And I've been to a number of boot camps to where you don't see the content until the day of the boot camp. And then I've been to boot camps where you kind of get to see it ahead of time. I like the one where you get to see it the day of, because you don't kind of sneak peek into the future a little bit, and you kind of get to also play with what you played with the last week. You really feel like you have the freedom to do that. And so that's what we're going to do it and see how it works anyway. I've been to both types, but basically when you come in on Saturday from 7:30 to 8 like you did this morning, I'll have handouts for you to put into your binder. We'll go over some discussion on that project. And it's project-based learning the way we're going to do it, meaning you'll learn the language Swift as you need it for that project using Xcode on the Macs. And so by the end of the 4 weeks, you should have basic understanding of gaming apps with SpriteKit, MapKit, backend database using Parse and Core Data. Parse.com, by the way, is a third party that's really popular. It's an online resource for developers to host data, and we'll have fun that week because we're going to be using Parse for using social media like Facebook to log in, and then do a little mini chat type of app. So those who all have the app can be able to chat with that app and log in with the Facebook credentials, which is real popular with most apps today. They give you the option to log in via Facebook. And then video recordings of last week. This one actually stemmed from a project a student did last semester, and I really like it. It's basically just a simple video recording app that allows you to apply filters to the video post recording. So say you can do like grayscale, you can do sepia, you can do cartoon, and so I think there's 7 or 8 different filters you can apply. And so 4 complete apps, and what I'll also do, just like even today, I've got the one I gave you in your binder. There's also one we'll look at in a second inside the course for this week that's a little different. a different type of game, but using Sprite Kit, but a little different type of game if you want to play with it. The course discussion here underneath the logo is just that. It's opened to you to post questions, comments, help each other. If you find a cool deal on a MacBook Mini or a computer or a phone or whatever, you can post it here. If you have questions about stuff, maybe somebody just recently bought a new computer or they bought a new whatever, you can post that information here to kind of help you. It's for both course and non-course related posts. A lot of classes lock down these discussions to just the course, but I kind of like it to open, especially since we only meet once a week, open it up to non-course related as well. That way you're kind of checking it once a day for content, and that way you guys can help each other, encourage each other, give suggestions on maybe items that you found out there, anything technical or anything to do with programming would be awesome. The other one is a live chat module. This one, when I'm online, it'll tell you. When I'm offline, it'll tell you as well. It comes directly to my phone, and so say you were programming on a Wednesday afternoon and you're in here or at home and you had a question about something, you could go here. I would suggest to go here first, and then if I am online, I'll show you what the screen looks like. Yeah, I am online. And so you just put in your full name, what your question is, the course name and question you have. It'll come directly to my phone or my laptop, whatever I'm on at the time, or iPad. And then I'll post back with some links for suggestions, and maybe a lot of times I'll just link like a GitHub repository that have some code for you to look at, or a video or a podcast or something. So avail yourself to that. That'd be the first method of communication I would recommend, is the live chat. Course FAQs. This goes over some of the basic makeup of the course, including agenda. So we've got date range is today through 6/6, 4 Saturdays only. It's the first time I've taught one of these, by the way, so bear with me. It's going to be, I'm trying to, a lot of faculty when they teach this course kind of cram 8 weeks into 4 weeks. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be nicer on you. But I would like you to focus a lot on each week to where you don't feel like, I don't know if you ever, you guys have, but you study for an exam and you pass it, but then somebody asks you a question 5 minutes after about that exam and you have no clue because you crammed for it. And so I want you to really know the apps that we do and feel comfortable with it and have a chance to play with it. And so that's the thought anyway, is that it would be that type of format for you. The course FAQs is the categories of apps we'll be looking at is gaming, map, GPS, backend database, and audio video apps. There's other ones out there. These are just seeming the most popular that are out on the App Store. Gaming would be the most popular out on the App Store. Generally, in my full semester course that teaches this, there's usually 1 or 2 students out of, like this semester we had 13, so we had like 2 or 3 students that picked a gaming app. The rest of them were like utility apps or GPS mapping apps, chat-based apps. If you don't have an iPad, I will give one to you today before you leave. So at break time, but I'll talk about in a second when that break time is, let me know and we'll get you hooked up with an iPad and get you set up, and you can take it home with you and start playing with it. No textbooks required. We'll be using weekly notes that I've created, found online, give you some resources on apps I've created, and then also podcasts and things of that nature. You'll also have no prereqs required for the course. It is a brand new language, Swift is, so even if you've had other languages, like say you've had C++, or you've had JavaScript, or you've had Visual Basic, it will help you, but all those languages I just mentioned are intro languages, so is Swift. Swift has only been around since last August, and so it's a brand new language. So even myself, including in that, not that far ahead of you as a developer. And so that's a good thing. That means, you guys are right on the cutting edge of the beginning of it. And granted, it has changed quite a bit since August, but that's normal with a new language. And while I'm talking about that, just so you know, when Xcode does change iteration and versions, you will see, in some cases, some pretty dramatic change in your code if you were to upgrade your machine to that newest version of Xcode. And that's going to be normal for the first couple of years of any new language. So just to share with you, to help you with your frustration, because it will happen for sure. And so just like the newest upgrade from Xcode 6.2 to 6.3, an example was the lab I gave you today was developed in 6.3. These machines run 6.2, and there was like 25 errors on 6.2, so I had to quickly find another lab for us to use for the in-class, but that's okay. So they'll just, an example of the one that just changed was it was a question mark. It was this right here, as, it was the name of the variable as whatever type. They changed it in the new version from 6.2 to 6.3 to put actually an exclamation point for what's called optional. They actually force it now to be optional now. Well, as is used a lot, you'll find out in Swift to determine what something is, what type of something is that you're declaring. And so that's just one example. So that's going to happen. Let's see. 3-ring binder, you'll have at the end at least 4 tutorials or more. The DVD will be at the, I'll actually create a DVD at the end of everything, all the source code and all that good stuff, and anything else we've included, any new stuff, and put it in a nice DVD for you to have before you take home. And then podcast, everything we're doing in class will be recorded for you to forward fast to a certain section or whatever. I will provide lunch every session, right? That's pretty nice, right? Not too bad. So here's the class agenda, 7:30 to 8, wake up time, get exercise files, handouts, coffee. I already told you where the machines were, downstairs all the way to the end is both coffee, water, and pop machines. From 8 to 11, we will do talk about the app, do some building and testing of the app, and I'll walk around and help you when we get to that place. The tutorials that you have will basically be step by step from project creation to project completion. The errors you get on those type of step-by-steps are usually syntax errors, meaning you spell, put something uppercase, should have been lowercase, lowercase should have been uppercase, stuff like that. You will have the original source code, though. You already do have it, and I'll show you where that's at each week to where you can compare your code, or if you need be, look at what error, if you bang your head against something for like, say, 30 minutes, you really want to help kind of mirror against the source, you can do that and look at that. But at the end of the tutorial, you'll have a completed app, functional. And then from 11 to 12, lunchtime. And then from 12 to 1:30, I slated that as open lab, optional. Meaning, just that, it's open lab optional. You can continue to work, play around with your code, play around with your app. You can head home and work on it. But it's an optional lab, open time, and that seems to work with all my programming classes. That way, students that get it go home and do something else on Saturday or whatever day of the week it is you have my classes. Or if you need more help to hammer away at that code you're working on, you want to tweak it some more, you just want some quiet time to work on it, a lot of students will do that and hang back. So I will be here regardless, and so from 12 to 1:30 is going to be the open lab optional. Questions on the agenda of the class? Okay, cool. I'm trying to think. Now the front doors are open. The lab doors open too. I don't believe anyone else is supposed to be in here. So periodically, if you see me kind of walk out there, I might have to tell a student that the lab's closed, possibly. We'll probably put a sign up there or something eventually. But I didn't want them to lock the door. That way, if you guys did go out the door, I'd have to let you in each time on the main lab doors out there. Okay. Not that I couldn't do that, but the security said we'll just keep it open, so we'll see how it works. Okay, today we're going to be covering week 1 on game basics with SpriteKit. But before we do, I want to go back and talk about Get Started. We need to do that. We need to talk about that. And I did email this to everybody. And so let's go over the checklist here real quick on what you need to do to get started with the class as far as tasks you need to complete. First is, if you haven't done so already, on number 2, register a new Apple ID using your student ID. And Apple requires that for us giving you an Apple developer license at no cost for the time. In fact, generally most students have keep the registration, Apple registration student license for a semester. I'm going to let you guys keep yours actually through the end of this year, through December. And what that means is you can keep using a developer license to develop apps, share those apps with your family and friends. It doesn't have to be, it won't go on the App Store, and that's nice. You can just plug in their device, which you'll learn how to do, and share it with your family and friends. And so I'll leave that till the end of the year. And then if you want to keep developing on the Mac OS, iOS platform, it would be $99 per year to keep up that developer license. And that would be like to publish something to the App Store. Okay. Optional on number 3 is a Mac. I know some of you do not have a Mac. If you do have a Mac, that's great. If you don't, we have Macs in here that you can use. And latest version of OS, Yosemite, and Xcode 6.3.1, which is the newest version of Xcode. And I have done this before. I won't be able to do it this week because I'll be gone, but if you want, I have installed Mac OS successfully, Yosemite, on a virtual machine, a VMware. So if you want to attempt that, not this next Saturday, but the Saturday after, 2 Saturdays from now, bring your Windows laptop in and we can play with that and get it installed if you want to try that. And if you've never used virtual operating system, VMware is just a way to install a virtual machine on your laptop. And so you want to do that, you can. If you have a MacBook that you use, bring it to class next time. You can definitely use your own Mac. But if you don't have a Mac, you're fine. About 50% of my students each class do not have a Mac. If you're wanting to be serious about developing iOS, I would recommend getting one eventually. And where I would recommend starting is a Mac Mini. Mac Minis on the Apple Store in the refurb area runs about anywhere from starting about $350, which is pretty decent for a Mac Mini. And you get a year warranty, and then you can use your existing monitor, keyboard, and mouse with that. And so I recommend that if you're just starting out with a Mac. And what's nice about it too, if you hook it up to your flat screen at home, you can actually use it as like a entertainment center type thing, you know, because you can connect to iTunes and all that fun stuff. And so I recommend that, Mac Mini. If you do not have a Mac and you're interested in getting one, not going out and buy a laptop or a iMac like these, which are a little bit more expensive, Mac Mini, most students aren't aware of that they exist. You can go see one at Best Buy, actually. They usually have a couple on display that you can play with. Questions on anything so far on what we went over before I go to number 4? Okay, on number 4 is just basically a whole bunch of bookmarks that I recommend you bookmarking that we'll be using. Some of them we might not be using in the next 4 weeks, but they're all good references for you for de facto references for an iOS developer. So we got tutorials, tips and tricks from my website, iOScourse.com, which is a website I created for iOS in general here on campus. Online textbook, which I've been using the last couple semesters. It's a really good reference. You can purchase a PDF version of that pretty cheap, I believe, if you want to just download it for a few bucks. The de facto coding helpers, Stack Overflow. A lot of colleges and universities are actually using Stack Overflow as the only reference actually for the entire class. What Stack Overflow is, if you don't know, is a place for developers to go, regardless what language, and give help and get help, both. And if you've been a developer, or if you are a developer already in a full-time setting, you probably experienced Stack Overflow and got some help through it. So the Swift cheat sheet, that's a good one as well. In fact, I'll click on that one to show you. We'll kind of be going over that today a little bit. The cheat sheet basically is what it sounds like. Basically, it just gives you real quick, here's how Swift works, and here's the code used to declare. And so they have really nice clickable categories to go to. So if you're interested in functions, click on that. Shows you how to declare a function, how a function works, arrays, so on and so forth. And so that's a good one. And then this one is a nice one too. If you have an iPad or don't have an iPad, you'll be getting one today if you don't have one. This is, I recommend for everybody in here, is the iOS Swift programming language by Apple, which is a free iBook that you can download that helps you with programming and with specifically Swift. Before Swift came around, we used exclusively Objective-C. How many's taken C++ already? Or have you taken any version of that? Okay, cool. Well, Objective-C is actually older than C++. It is the grandfather of C++. So it's a lot of differences in code. Same family, but a lot of code to do a little work. And one of the reasons Apple switched to Swift was it was archaic, number one. Number two, they were coming against roadblocks with like gaming development that Swift helped solve with like what we have today, what we're going to be talking about, which is the game kit wouldn't exist in iOS. It wouldn't work with Objective-C at all. And so you had to use third-party tools to do any gaming development, whether it be 2D or 3D. Well, now with the advent of Swift, it is an object-oriented language. It's the newest language known to man right now. Swift is. There's other languages that are new, but it's the newest kid on the block that's out there. And it's gotten a lot of rave reviews from across the board developers, both experienced, novice alike. It's very, you'll find out today, fairly intuitive and fairly easy to learn, I think, compared to Objective-C. And that's one of the reasons too. The third reason Apple pushed it was to get more developers on board. There was developers that saw Objective-C and said, forget it. I took it C++, I'm not doing that. I can't do it. Too much. And so they just wouldn't attempt it. And so more developers, by the way, as you can imagine, have really come into the iOS ecosystem since last August. And there's tons of good resources out there. And I'll give you as many as I have, plus those that others have created this semester. I'm a big believer in sharing the knowledge that's out there. There's so much good stuff. And there's so many great programmers that are willing to share what they know at no cost. And that's the way I am as well. And I encourage you to be as well as you learn programming, because it always comes back when you do that for positive things. And let's see, Facebook page. I think some of you already done this. We do have a Facebook page. If you could like that, that'd be awesome. We'll be using that periodically just to post news or something I might have out there. Or, in fact, I'll go out there and show you what it looks like. It's facebook.com iOS course. And it does have there the latest link to some of the apps the students from spring 2015 semester created. I think you have to be logged in to click on it, but I think it might let me do it maybe. Yeah, there you go. Show you what those are real quick. Kind of spend a moment looking at some of the apps that students this last semester just created. One was called I Need Help. The student created an app where they entered in 4 contacts to send a location to when and where they needed help. Example, the car breaks down on the highway, stranded in an unknown area, such as a country road with no street signs. It used GPS, map, and parse.com for that. And pick size was made by a father and son, actually, Mike and Noah. Mike's wife arranges photos for a living for a company, and they don't have an iPad app that does it. And basically what she does is brings in a whole bunch of images onto one layout, and then she has to force it to an 8.5 by 11 printout. And so they wanted to create an iPad app to do that, and they got a really good start on it. They got to it to where they could add the images and start moving them around and send it to a printer. And they want to keep working on that. It's called Pick Size. And then RBC Police, we did have Todd Johnson, which is an RBC Police, that did an app called RBC Police. We're sharing public information, sex offender information, activity logs, also an emergency button for anybody to use on the app. You can just tap on it, and it calls the emergency number, auto dialer. Anonymous tip reporting, and he's pretty much done with that one. He actually might be sitting in on one or two at the end of our class here, but he worked quite a bit on that one. And then Heroes, this was people looked up to of all ages. Estige, this one was like an app like Pinterest or Instagram, where you could look up a different it ended up being where he could create a logo. Anybody could create an image or a logo and post it, and people would make comments on it, basically, because he was into graphics and arts and things like that. And so basically, it's kind of like maybe Facebook with just for images and posting information or comments on those. Spaceship Attack is a simple point-and-shoot gaming app that Ben created. Buy Bill, Managing Bills. Expand Your Circle. This one was where Hannah created an app to add multiple animals into an app and give description, pictures, things of that nature. And I think she had about 15 animals in there on the night of presentation that she added. And another one was Jonathan actually had have you guys ever heard of like a startup on web where people try to do a startup and collect money to do a certain project? Well, he actually did one a couple of years ago for a mobile app. I think it was in a Windows or Droid platform. It didn't succeed, but that same app he brought into class and developed an iOS app, arcade shooter, and had about halfway done. And going to continue to work on it. Remind me, don't forget, never forget, ever mind. It's an app where basically just a simple reminder app. You can add anything that you want them to remind you of, and it will remind you of that at that date and time. He's further going to add a notification of location, location notifications basically. So when you get to your car and you leave your work, it notifies you, hey, before you go home, go to the grocery store type of thing. And so that's a few of the apps, all the apps actually created in the spring, so I thought I'd share that with you. But like the page on Facebook, and then also our Twitter page as well. I will post links at times or helps at times, and you can follow us on our Twitter page. All right? So, we go back to the home. Now go to week 1. And the first place we want to go to is week 1 notes. And I should have a link in here for iOSCamp.docs, which I believe I handed out to you. It's in the front end of your binder. I just put it in here because some of those links on the binder I gave you are kind of long links, so I thought I'd just put the Word document here as well. That way you can kind of click on those links if need be. Okay, So we're going to page 2. We went over getting started, Apple developer account. Make sure you get that done, because the assignment this week actually is submitting your Apple developer email, which should be your student email, and setting up a GitHub account, which we'll do in just a second. Xcode, Mac, and iOS device is what you need to develop an app. So an Apple developer account, Xcode, which is a platform used to develop the app, Mac, iMac, Mac Mini, MacBook, and it could be Mac on a VMware now. Learning Swift resources. These are just some links, are pretty awesome links. The first link here is learnswift.co. Click on that one. It's loading eventually. There it is. This page actually, or this website, is a really good website for people just getting started with Swift, like you guys, or those just interested. It's broken down into kind of like the cheat sheet one, but it's a little nicer. And the reason is, we'll find out in a second. But basically, you'll notice you can do getting started, arrays, all the way over to enumerations. But the one thing it's got that's different is it has this thing called Download Playground. What Playground is Swift language has included what's called Playground, which allows you to do what it says. Play around with code and learn it, and it basically compiles on the fly. And so we're going to do that right now, actually. And so if you would click on that link, learn-swift.co, it'll bring you to that website. That'd be great. Do I know? Yeah, it is. That's a file he created. A Playground file you can create and export it to anybody. And so that's basically what's happened here. So click on that link, or highlight it and bring it up in a browser, whatever works there. Okay. And so basically what we'll do is we'll start with the getting started, which is the first one. And it should say Download Playground. You guys see that link? And if you hover over it, it's actually a zip file. If you click on that Download Playground link, it's going to download it into your Mac environment, into the Downloads folder. Now, if you're brand new to Mac, which some of you might be, let me talk real quick while this is downloading. Right-click on a Mac would be Control key, bottom left Control key on your keyboard. And if you press anywhere on your Mac with your mouse, you'll see a right-click option, like I'm doing on the overhead right now. So Control-click anywhere is the simulation that you have on a Windows mice with right-click. And by the way, you could use a Windows mouse with Mac as well. I know some people would do. So, but everything else basically, I mean, you'll kind of learn as you go, but it's fairly much the same as far as navigation goes as Windows is anymore. Once this downloads, if you're in Chrome, like I am, it'll actually put it down here in the bottom of your Chrome web browser. If you're in Firefox, it'll go in the download little button here to click on. Either way, let's click on that Getting Started once it downloads it, and you want to open it up or show it in Finder. Show in Finder will bring it up into the folder on the Mac. And once you show it in Finder, it'll look like this. It'll actually, it should highlight it. And then if you just double click on that zip file, unlike Windows, to unzip a file, you have to right click and extract it. On the Mac, all you have to do is double click. When you double click on a zip file, it's going to extract it and create, you'll see that folder created. Now, these Macs have multiple versions of Xcode. And so because of that, we've got to do a control click on anything that's Xcode related. Otherwise, it's going to open it up in the oldest version of Xcode on these Macs, which we don't want. So, did everybody get that file downloaded, by the way? Anybody? If you need help, let me know, and I'll come by and help you. Yeah, the Getting Started one. Once you've extracted it, it should look like mine on the overhead has a little blue icon on the left. Do a control click on that file and open with the latest version of Xcode. Mine is 6.2, and I believe everybody's in here is the same, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Everybody have Xcode 6.2? It actually should be the default, but it might not be. I don't know. So, Benita is your 6.2. Brandon, 6.2. You got your MacBook, okay? 6.2 over here, guys, on Xcode? Or anybody need help on it? Yeah, and just do a control click. Yeah, just click on that for me. And then if you go to that download folder over there on your Mac, there it is. It's opened it up. Yep. And just control click on that playground. Control click with your mouse. Press the control button, and then click, and then open with the latest version. It should be I had Deb change it. So good. It is the default, so that's great. Once it comes up, you should it'll fire up Xcode on your Mac, and I'll click on mine to show you here what it looks like. And what Playground is, when Apple developed a new language, they wanted a way for people, you guys have seen this in other languages. When you're learning a new language, you have to learn how to create the header file of that language. You have to learn how to bring in all the resources for that library for that file to work. Then you got to compile it, right, for it to see anything, to see any output. The way Playground works is you just start typing code in and you see the output immediately. It's immediate compiling. It's immediately output. It's awesome. And so, especially for new beginners, even myself though, if I want to see what an array can do over time, when you get into gaming, if you want to see what an array can do on an object, you can literally see it in Playground live out. And so once it's compiled, it'll look like this, or it's not compiled, just running. You'll also see though at the top of your screen, you should see an Xcode. If everybody will do this for me, just to kind of show you how to find out the version of Xcode you're on. If you click on the Xcode menu, go to the About Xcode option there, and it will tell you what version you're on. Now this one's 6.2, right? If you have a Mac at home, how many has a Mac at home, by the way, or a MacBook that you'll be using, maybe? Okay. Well, if that's the case, you'll want to upgrade to the latest version of Xcode if you haven't already done so before today. So between now and the time we meet again, Xcode 6.3 is the newest version. And the Macs in here should all be 6.2 right now, but they will be 6.3 by next week. So this is going to show you, if you ever wonder what version you're on, how to do it. Is just click an Xcode About. But let me just show you some stuff you can do in here before we start looking at what's going on, what this is all about. Let's just go down to the fourth line where it says var player name :string equals player 1. In place of player 1, I want you to put in your first and last name. Oh, it's just $, $CBR$. If you're on these Macs in here, if you ever get a prompt for a password, it's $CBR $, and that should suffice. Does that work for you? You're going to replace player 1 with your first and last name. And you notice as soon as you do that, you should see the change on the right side of the screen of that option once you hover away from it, get away from it. In fact, you don't even have to do that. It will do it dynamic as you type. So I have Chuck Conkle on mine. If I backspace on Conkle and maybe put in Smith, go to the next line, it's going to update it. And just click on the next line. It's going to be the quickest way. And so what's happening here is on the left side of your screen is the code that you're typing in. On the right side is the actual output of that. And so that's what Playground allows you to do. So let's talk about what this lesson's about here. It's just basic command line on getting started with Swift. The first one is a console output. In other coding languages like C++, it's like cout is a popular one. Might be in VB, like a message box, a line print. In Swift, print line only shows up for the developer to see in the bottom portion of Xcode. And it's nice for developers, especially if you're wanting to see what your app's doing as you're developing. And you're not really maybe you have nothing on the screen yet. You just want to see what the app's doing, what files it's being created, things of that nature. And so print line is basically anything you put in quotes there is going to be printed out, or if it's a variable, it'll print it out, and it's going to be again at the bottom portion of Xcode. Variables, these next couple lines. The first one, you have to start out a variable with either var or let. Var is something you can change. That variable you can change after that. So this one is var player name. It's a string type, and I put in there Chuck Smith. Okay? So the declaration for a variable is the word var, whatever name, colon, and to the right of the colon is always going to be the type. In this case, it's a string, but it could be an integer, it could be a float, it could be a double, whatever, a whole bunch of different types. And then to the right of the equal sign is basically what you're assigning it to be. But notice right after I assign it to be Chuck Smith, it's reassigning it to Kashin, all right, on the next line. And you can do that with a var type. You can do that with a var type. But let's look at a constant type. Let game title, it's a string, Flappy Swift. Now, if we try to change game title, in fact, if we take this next line and uncomment, let's uncomment. And by the way, the slash asterisk slash is a comment, basically. So we can get rid of that comment, those comment symbols, the slash asterisk and the asterisk slash. And you should get a little red exclamation point to the left of that. And if you take your mouse and click on that red exclamation point, it'll tell you what you've just done and what the problem is. It says you cannot assign let value to game title. You cannot assign to let value game title, meaning it's already been assigned something, and so you can't reassign it. Make sense? So, static variable is constant. Yep. And so you can't reassign it. So if you're wanting to have something in your app that changes all the time, make it a var. Make sure the name, the only suggestion I have on naming your variable names is it can't be a reserved name, which you'll find out what those are as time goes on, so don't worry about what those are right now. Naming mnemonics, bookcase is what I suggest. So bookcase naming. So if it's, say, a name variable, say you're creating a form on your app for people to fill out a contact form or something, right? So you have first name, last name. And so what I suggest is, bookcase variable and bookcase variable name. So in that case it would be, it could be either first name, or I like to do just F name just to be short, and then L name, so on and so forth. And so you're just basically making sure it means something to what the variable's doing, number one. Number two, I like to make it as short and sweet as possible, okay? And so if you make your variable names always bookcase, and you make your variable constants lowercase all the time, you can kind of tell what they are as the code goes on, if that makes sense. So variable name that's going to change with var in front of it, this one I know can change throughout the app because I did a bookcase. But let's just say I wanted something like, I don't know, I'm doing an app that does rate for tax rate, right? A tax rate, and that's for a store to people to purchase items on this app. So because it's a constant, I just do it all lowercase. So if this code or this variable was used, say, 1,000 places in my app, which it could be, I don't need to go back to the very declaration of where it's defined to determine if it's a constant. I know by the name being all lowercase, it's a constant. That make sense? That's a very easy thing to remember, and just lock it in, man. Lock it in. Bookcase, var, lowercase, let, which is constant. Can change, can't change. No, it doesn't have to be. I just suggest it. Yeah, I just suggest it for logic purposes. Nope, doesn't have to be. Nope, And, you could do it that way though too. If that's already in your mind with Java, it might be best to maybe make all your constants all uppercase. That'll work. I've just always done all lowercase, but you can do all uppercase. It doesn't really matter as long as you have the rules that works for you, basically. That makes sense. Does that make sense to you? And so var and let are the two variable types so far on the getting started. Next is at the bottom, which is string inference or type inference. So you can type can be inferred or type can be explicit. Okay, an inferred type is where it says var opponent name equals player 2. Well, because it's in quotes, it's a string. Easy. But let's say it's a number. Var numbers of lives equals 99. Here, that declares number of lives as an integer using inference. So at the top of the code here, at the top of the examples up here, at the top, var player name, that's an explicit declaration of a type, string, right? Bottom types of examples are inference. So it's either inferred or it's explicit. Make sense? So far we went over var, let. Vars can be changed. Lets are constant. An inference type is something you put to the right of the equal sign that infers a type. An explicit type is something you put to the right of a colon, and that's an explicit type. All right. Now at the bottom you'll notice, this is cool with Swift. I love it. So easy to do with Swift versus Objective-C, especially some of you like Matt that had Objective-C, you'll see this real quick. On the var lives label line, it says var lives label equals, you have backslash number of lives minus 1 in parentheses. What that's doing is it tells Swift with that backslash parentheses that you're putting a variable in the parentheses. And the variable in this case is number of lives. Number of lives minus 1 is 98, space, lives remaining. So it should come out with 99 was the top of the declaration of var number of lives. The next one is you have 98 lives remaining. So if you just go in there and play with it, let's go ahead and take in there on the minus 1, and let's just put in there minus 20 instead. And then click on the next line, and you'll see you might have to go to the end and hit enter to see the lives change. In fact, I think I've got to get rid of this error first at the top. Yeah. So if you go back to that error line, it won't compile below that error line. If you go to that error line, game title equals, that I had you on comment, I'm going to show you another way to comment. Just 2 forward slashes will comment out the line. 2 forward slashes. So 2 forward slashes is one I use a lot. This one here, this comment here, is if you want a comment to be on multiple lines. What I mean by that is if I take this here, and I could put anything in between in this area here, and it's going to be green, which denotes comment. All right? Make sense? So if it's a multiple comment, this is real easy to do. Otherwise, if you didn't do the multiple comments, the multiple comment line, you would have to go into each line and do a 2 forward slash or more, and then that would do it as well. Yes?
Another variation of that I like is if you uncomment the thing you just commented.
Mm-hmm.
What I use a lot now, again, highlight that.
Yeah.
Command forward slash.
And do what now?
Command forward slash. You have to highlight all three.
Oh, command forward slash, okay.
Hit command forward slash.
Yeah, there you go.
Whole block. If you hit command forward slash again, it'll uncomment.
Good one. I like it. Command forward slash. Easy. The other one you can do is also up here at the edit symbol. There's a refactor format as well, and a format encapsulation that allows you to do some more functionality as well. In fact, I think it's an editor. They moved it. Yeah, editor structure. They moved it to where you can do uncomment that way. But it's the same shortcut you just showed us. Right there it is, the command forward slash. And if you do the command forward slash, I'm guessing it'll get rid of it again. Cool. Excellent. Good tip. Now we got rid of the error. You'll notice at the bottom, though, it's now fixed it. The number of lives minus 20 now says 79. And again, it's dynamically doing that. Okay, so let's do this. We'll go up to that Getting Started Playground and just click the little red. Also on the Mac tip here for those non-Mac users just starting out, the newbies. On the upper left corner of this box, there's a red, yellow, and green button. Green means you would expand the form. Yellow means you minimize it. And red means you get rid of it. You close it. We're going to click on red to get rid of it. And we're going to go back to this web page. And we're going to click on Arrays, which is the second one. And arrays basically, what they do is, if you've never had programming language, I'm going to assume you haven't. I know some of you have, but this is an intro class. So arrays basically just hold a collection of types and are in brackets with quotes and commas separating them. That's all they are. Arrays are generally going to be a var type, but they can also be a let type. They can be a constant as well. And they hold different types of information. Or they can also hold, in some cases, different types as well. And so basically, if you try to put in different types, you'll notice if you try to force it anyway in as a string here at the bottom, the third example, the bare level names, because Green Hill's a string, Labyrinth's a string, 2 would throw an error because it's not of the same type. And that's pretty much across the board on languages anymore. When you're inspecting arrays, you can get the number of array by doing whatever the name of the array is, .count. So if I have 3 values in an array and do a .count, it's going to give me 3. If it's empty, if I want to say if level names is empty to determine if I want to needs populated, I could do that. To get the first and last value of an array, this is nice, is .first and .last. And it brings up that first and last value. And getting array values, if I wanted the first array, which is always going to be 0, I would put in brackets that array index, which in this case is 0 for Green Hill. Adding arrays, pretty simple. The name of the array, .append, and then the array in quotes. It will kick out Starlight. And then append final will kick out Starlight, then final, because we just added another one. Okay, concatenating arrays, taking arrays and adding more. You can concatenate 2 arrays using the plus equal sign. What that's going to do basically is take an existing array and add it to another array. And so in this case, we added both arrays now, more level names into level names, using the plus equals. And now we've got from Green Hill, Marble, Spring Yard, Starlight, Final. And then lastly, mutating arrays. You can mutate arrays by basically taking the array value. It needs to be declared as a variable, var. Constants are always immutable. And basically what it allows you to do is take that array and use it as a constant. So by using the let symbol. So if you try to reassign it, it wouldn't let you do it, like in this case. If I try to append something to a let array, it wouldn't let me do it. To insert a value into any given index, you would do the .insert. In this case, it has the first one, which is Labyrinth, and then you could do the at index 3, and it would insert that Labyrinth into index 3 for you. Updating an index or value, you just name it. This one's called index 5. It'd be renamed to an overwrite with scrap brain. Deleting an array at a certain place, remove index. And so let's just go up to the very top before reading more. I wanted you to click on that download playground. We're going to see how these arrays work. You've already unzipped the first one, so hopefully you should be able to do this one on your own. Again, when you double click on a zip file in a Mac, it'll automatically extract it, and then control click on that playground file and open with the latest version of Xcode. And it might take a second to show up on the right side with arrays. A little bit more work that it's having to do. But what I'd like you to do, instead of me going over all these one by one, just kind of play around with it for a few minutes. Kind of make some changes in there. Make some changes in that top array on declaring, maybe making there your names of your friends or something. Just something that's personal to you. As you go down to kind of see what the changes are and how to manipulate these, how to mutate them, insert them, to update them. Go through that in the next couple minutes and play with that real quick. It'll stay in your memory, by the way, if you use some words that mean something to you, some types of words or people, you know, dogs, animals, whatever. So do that. And I will try to take a break right at the top of the hour. So right after you get through playing with this for a few minutes, when you feel comfortable that you've went through this section here, just go ahead and take a 5-minute break. Bathrooms are women to the right when you leave, men to the left. If you need to get some more to drink, downstairs in the basement. We'll come back in roughly 5 minutes, start back up. Sound good? And anytime you guys need to slip out, even if I'm in the middle of something, if you need to go to the restroom, you can definitely do that. Don't you have to. It is being recorded, so you can be caught up. Come back and watch later. So I've got 9:05. We'll start back at 9:15, just to give you a few more minutes to finish up, and then stretch your legs a little bit, and then come back. Or if you're an existing GitHub user, you can definitely use your existing one. And the way we're going to use GitHub basically is to put all of our, you'll upload your code to it. We'll also download code for each week. But basically, once you sign up, let me go ahead and exit out of here to show you what it looks like. Should see like yours right there, right? You just basically click on sign up and go ahead and spend a moment to sign up if you haven't already done so. Once you've registered for a GitHub user account, you can then register. I'll send you an email on how to register for a .edu account, but don't worry about that right now. Just register for a regular GitHub account. The .edu account gives you like 2 private channels to choose from. Yes, may I help you? No, the lab's closed out here today. It is closed. Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. And so GitHub is a public repository by default, meaning anything you put up here, it's public for anybody else to see. And what's nice about it for developers is you can see other code that other folks have developed, but then you can share code you've developed, and you can communicate back and forth to folks on, in Germany and China and back and forth, and they can make suggestions, you make suggestions. And one cool story I always like to share about GitHub is the guy was getting married, he's engaged to be married, right? He was a developer, and he thought he'd create his wedding invitations or his wedding website invitation site on GitHub. And because you can create a website on GitHub. And so we did, and just left it there and didn't think anything about it. Went back a month later, it was all like beautiful. It was like people had changed the pictures, they had made the font look nicer, brought in a whole bunch of, and what happened was, because it's public, he made it open for everybody to go in there and play with. They just contributed, like thousands of users contributed to his invitation, and he showed his fiance, and he thought about it for just a second taking credit for it. But he's like, no, I didn't do this all by myself, and he shared the story. And so it's great collaboration to make anything better, and anytime you collaborate with other people, it's generally going to make stuff better. And so GitHub we're going to use to host our code, and what that's good for is when you commit code to GitHub today, which I'll show you how to do, basically when you go home or any other Mac you're on or wherever in the world, you can log into GitHub and download your code, continue to work on it, and then when you're done, commit your code. And so it's basically your main repository for your code for all changes. That way, if you've ever had a computer crash before, If you haven't, you probably will. GitHub will save your life because all your code can be on that repository. Your Macs will have, by the way, once you've signed up successfully in GitHub, has everybody done that already? Once you've signed up successfully in GitHub, there is a GitHub icon right here on your Mac. If you'll click on this little GitHub icon on your Mac, I'll show you how to log into that app on your Mac. Once you click on it on a Mac, the icon will bounce until it opens up, and then you should see this screen right here. Everybody see that? On the upper left corner, of GitHub, click on the GitHub menu and go to Preferences. And in GitHub Preferences is where you'll put in your login information, username and password. So go ahead and do that. And you can use your email address and the password you use to get in. On the Mac? No.
From the keychain.
Yeah, that's fine. Allow all. If you get a prompt on a secure keychain, allow all, because we're going to restart these anyway afterwards. So, yeah, allow all. And by the way, these Macs in here, they're restarted periodically, and they're on deep freeze, meaning when they restart, all the stuff that's on them right now that you've done will be wiped out. And so, but it's always a good idea to log out and stuff. I'll remind you to do that. So once you log in, might take a little bit here. Probably helps put in the right password. Oh no, I'm sorry. You have to use your username. Okay. Block him out, maybe. Oh. All right. Oh, I know what it is. You can't be logged in on another Mac. And I'm logged in over here. Yeah, it's for security purposes. You can't be logged in another place, so I need to log off over here. So let me log off. Forgot about that. They made that change a while back. Yep, you got to sign out. Do I know? What's that? That's just on the machine, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
Let me look here to make sure, though, where you're logged in as. Oh, yeah, you're logged in as me. So you need to log in with you.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
That's why I can't get in. That's why I can't get in. Yeah, so log in with your username, not mine. Huh. Oh, you are? Are you serious? Hey, I didn't do it. Make sure you guys log out with me. Maybe I did go by earlier and do that. Okay. Well, make sure you log off as me first, and I won't mess with logging in right now because I won't be able to get in. But go ahead and log in as you, log out as me, log in as you. And I want to kind of walk around, make sure everybody's logged in successfully. I won't worry about trying mine right now. Were you able to get in? Okay, cool. And you're able to log in over there. Great. Benita, you good? Okay. As soon as you've logged in successfully, basically the way it works is you should have, like, by the way, a little login screen maybe up still in front of you. Maybe you can close that. The little box, yeah, the little box there you can close. I want you to go down to where you can see just what I have on the overhead. Basically, what you want to do is when you're adding a repository to this, simply is dragging a folder into this environment, into the gray area right here. So anywhere in here, basically, you drag a folder. It'll ask you, do you want to make this a repository? Yes. You name it, commit and sync button, and upload it, and that's it. It's done. And so we'll do that actually at the end of the lab today. We'll submit everybody, but we'll keep everything logged in for now. So go ahead and minimize this by clicking on the yellow button in between the yellow and red. So you're on GitHub, good. Next, I want you to go to our Eagle page for not notes. We just left that. We're going to go to the next page that says Week 1 Tutorial. And there's two subsets of tutorials in here. One is for the breakout game that's in your book, which we're not going to do because it's 6.3. So if you brought your Mac today and you have 6.3, I'd like for you to switch over to the Big Mac in front of you to do this tutorial. That way we're kind of all doing the same thing. That's okay. So the Mac should be on in front of you already, so it shouldn't take too long to get up and going. So log into Eagle real quick on the Mac in front of you, and if you're not already. And we're going to focus on the bottom tutorial on Xcode 6.2, RBC Lab in class. And there's two links under there. One is an online tutorial from Ray, and the bottom one is a code that I already have uploaded into our iOS course environment. So what I'd like you to do is, before we go to the tutorial, we're going to go and download the code. I'm going to show you how to do it. If you'll click on the link here at the bottom of the Week 1 tutorial, the one that says that I'm highlighting on the overhead, the github.com iOS course Sprite Kit game, Sprite Kit simple game, that one. Click on that link if you would for me. It'll launch this page here, which looks like this. Now, there's two ways to do this. Today, since you're already logged into GitHub, this is going to work great. If you notice on the upper right corner of your screen, you should see a fork button. Everybody see that? Fork, F-O-R-K. And what we're going to do is every time I give you some code, you're going to do what's called fork and clone. It's kind of like if we were eating together, which we're going to do in a little bit here. If you had something on your plate I wanted, I take my fork and poke it and bring it over to my plate, right? Which you definitely didn't do in my family growing up. You get hurt. Anyway, maybe you guys are the same way. I'll share my food, or I'll buy you some food, but don't get my food. I won't share my food. I'll buy you some food. Anyway, so what we're going to do first is fork. So if everybody clicks on the fork button, when you click on the fork button, I've got to be signed in here, so hang on just a second. It should prompt you, by the way, you don't have to wait for me, to where you want to fork it to. You're going to click on your account. You're going to click on your account to fork to. And when you click on your account to fork to, it's going to do just that. I'm clicking on my account, which is ChewCon, and now it's forked it to my account. And notice it says at the top, your name / Sprite Kit Simple Game. Under that, forked from iOS course / Sprite Kit Simple Game. Everybody see that? Now we're ready to do what's called clone in desktop. On the bottom right corner, above the download zip file button, is clone in desktop. And what we're going to do, we're going to clone this app that I created from Ray's example and put it on the desktop. So click on clone in desktop button. It should prompt this link here. This little box says launch application code, or launch application. That's where it's going to recognize GitHub, and it's going to pull it up from there. And so I'm going to switch, though, because I know it's not going to let me log in because of all the users that were in. So I'm going to switch to my MacBook so you can see that. Yes, definitely. Otherwise, you won't have rights to submit it after you guys are done. And so, so let me go ahead and show you here on my MacBook what it's going to look. Once you guys have done the cloning successfully, anyway, let's see. Let me go to a new one, just to be different here. I'm going to go to that one. And okay. Clone desktop. Now, click OK on that button if you didn't already on the launch application screen. Click OK if you haven't already done that. When you click OK, it's going to bring up a screen like this. Now, this is a different source, but it'll say iOS course / what is it, Sprite Kit Simple Game? Is that what you guys have on yours? Right? Oh, where you want to clone it? Good. You want to clone it to your desktop. So I've already done mine earlier, so it's going to put this up. So you want to clone it to your desktop. If you already chose another location, that's okay. But we're going to put it to our desktop on our Macs. If you need help doing that, let me know. You'll find desktop on the left side of your Mac navigation. As soon as you click on desktop, just click the clone button. That should be flashing blue and white, I believe. The clone button there. Yeah, there you go. And then once you successfully clone, yeah, looks like you already selected, what did you select, desktop or documents or whatever?
It didn't give me the option of just asking for clone.
Okay. You're okay. Just want to see here where I put it at. Okay, so put it in the web student folder, which is fine. It doesn't matter. But from now on, we'll put it in the desktop. Okay, so do this for me. Now that you see the green screen on the right with green background anyway, on the left, on the upper part, I'll come by and point it to you. Click on the word repositories. I already did it on yours, I think. So click on the word repositories, and what's it going to see is the one you just cloned to your desktop should be the only one in there, I believe. Is that correct? Simple game one should be the only one in there. That's fine. But what you're going to do is control-click on the one that's there, control-click on it with your mouse, press the control button and click on that repository and show in Finder. And then the reason we're going to do that is when you do show in Finder, it's going to take you right to the location where that's at. You say, why don't I just go to desktop? Because once you start developing a whole bunch of apps, you could have different iterations of that app on your Mac. This way you know you're going to the exact version of where it's at on your Mac. So once you do show in Finder, here's what I want you to do. In show in Finder, let me bring up my code real quick. I download this too. Make sure I have the right one here before I click on it. Okay, it should be this one right here, I believe. Is that right? Is that what you guys see on yours? Sprite Kit, simple game, and then the .xcode proj, and then the test one below that, right? What you're going to do is, to launch an existing app in Swift, you need to launch the one that says .xcode proj. So control-click on that file, the one that ends with .xcode proj, and open with the latest version of Xcode. Now mine earlier showed up the correct version, the default. Now it's wrong, so that's why you always do the control-click in here. It should be Xcode 6.2 is what you want to open it up to. Do not use the default because it'll be wrong. It'll be a really old version of Xcode. So again, control-click on that Xcode proj file, open with Xcode 6.2. Once you do that, it's going to open up Xcode, and in just a second, we'll compile it and run it in the simulator, which we'll talk about what that is in a second. So once it loads, you'll see it says loading Sprite Kit simple game. It should be spinning in the middle there, right? Just loading all the files into the Xcode environment, into the interface, checking to make sure everything works. Once it checks everything, it should say succeeded today at whatever time. Okay? App, what I generally do is, once you see that stop spinning and it says succeeded, you might see the word indexing show up, just flash briefly maybe for a second. What it's doing basically is just doing what it's saying. It's indexing the code on this Xcode environment. So what we want to do is, here's what you always want to do in Xcode, is you want to do a clean and a build. So if you go to the product menu in Xcode, it's in the middle part of the menu at the top of your Mac screen, product and then clean. And then we want to do, after that succeeds, we want to do a product build. Product build. And what we're doing basically is just rebuilding this Xcode environment on our Mac machine. And the build will take a little longer, by the way, than the clean. The clean basically deletes all residual files in this code compiled. And then it's going to relink everything back to make sure everything works. And I always do that just to be safe, to make sure everything's linked up right. And this could take a little time, depending on the size of the app and depending on what you have in it. And so it's going to re-render everything back to where it was. After this gets through rendering and building, we're going to show you a few things in Xcode. Storyboard's the first thing we're going to show you. Then we're going to show you the code. Then we're going to run the app and play with it. And then we'll go right into the tutorial so you can build this. But this app will stay up in front of you. And what's nice about Xcode is you can create multiple projects within the one instance of Xcode and go back and forth in between the two. And so that's nice that you can do that for code comparison and things like that. And so we'll keep this one up once it compiles completely here. Looks like mine's at the end of the compiling Swift source files. Should be almost done. Then it goes to Swift docs, and then towards the end, the libraries, and then finally succeeded. You'll see a little hammer with some type of, looks like a sickle almost, and it says succeeded. Everybody get that? Everybody still waiting on yours to compile all the way? Okay. Cool. Do this for me. On the left side of your screen, there's 3 folders: Sprite Kit Game, Sprite Kit Simple Game, Sprite Kit Simple Game Test, and Products. We're going to expand the top one, the Sprite Kit Simple Game, and we're going to click on the main.storyboard. Now, with the iteration of Xcode a couple years back, even when Objective-C was here, they started letting developers use what's called storyboard, which is much like what I did here. You can literally begin laying your objects out on the storyboard to visually see all the pages of your app, basically, on one storyboard. And so this storyboard, by the way, for this app is going to be all black because it's a game, and that's normal on this version. And so, because it's going to go right to the game console. But this storyboard basically can allow us, though, if you look on the right side of your screen, it could allow us to add in a whole bunch of different things here on the right. We could add in navigation control. We could add in, I'll scroll down here real quick while you're looking at with me. You can just kind of scroll down with me. I can add in, if I go down to the bottom, a button, a label, text box, a slider, a switch. You've seen some of these maybe on your apps that you played with. An active activity indicator indicating something's happening, progress view, a stepper, plus or minus stepper, an image, go down to some other stuff you've seen maybe, a scroll view, picking a date, picking any type of object from a list, a map kit, a banner ad, a 3D scene, a web view for a website, like a web browser, different type of gestures you can add, navigation bars. So this is where you add all of your objects that I'm going through right now that you could add to this one scene here that we're not going to add anything, but that's where you would add it into the storyboard. And by the way, if you take your mouse and put it right here where mine is, and double click right here on the top part, right here on the top part, kind of double click. You know you've clicked successfully when all the buttons up here are kind of highlighted. One should have a blue background. If you have none of them highlighted, it's not selected. So if you have one of them highlighted, you know you've selected the view. Now with the view selected, go to the right side of your screen here. This area is all of the properties of this view. So we'll focus on like this one right here. To the right of the question mark, it's the identity inspector. It tells me the class of this view is called Game View Controller, which we'll look at in just a second. That's the main controller then of this application. When this app runs, it goes to Game View Controller and does its stuff. The next tab is the Property Inspector, the Attributes Inspector. This tells me I can change on this one. We won't do it, but I could change it to a different simulation. Like say I wanted to force it to simulate an iPhone 4 for whatever reason, or an iPad full screen, or an iPad 4, 3.5, which is the old school for iPad 4 or iPhone 4S. I also can change orientation. I can force it to be portrait or landscape here. I can change my status bars. And if I have multiple views, I can uncheck this one as the initial view controller and maybe check another one to be an initial view controller. Go to the ruler one. The ruler one is basically, they've changed it up a little bit in Xcode to where now they resize everything automatically for you. You can, which is nicer. It's a little trickier. We'll help you with that this next few weeks. But that's where you would basically lay out all your objects. To the right, the arrow to the right shows you any objects that are bound to this view. In this case, we just have a view bound to it. That's it. Nothing else is bound to it. Now, if you go up to the right, up a little higher, you'll see these three icons. And basically, if you click on the right one, go ahead and do that with me, it'll hide that little right side navigation we were just in. Click on it again, it'll bring it back. Click on the one to the left of that, it'll hide the bottom one in the middle of your Xcode. Click it on again, it'll bring it back. And then click on this third one here, it'll hide and show the navigator of all your files on the left side. And so a lot of times I will hide all these if I'm laying out something on my storyboard and I need a lot of space, and you want more space, you can hide and show things easily that way. These three icons here we use in development to bind code, bind objects to code. Specifically, this Show Assistant Editor will allow me to bind, say I put a button on here, to an actual class, the Game View Controller class. So that's the right side in a nutshell. There's more to it, but that's just a little intro there. On the left side, let's go over here, and we're going to actually click on that Game View Controller, which is the class that runs this app. And we're going to look at it real quick. The view did load. You see where it says override function view did load, or override func view did load? The developers were lazy. They didn't want to do function. They just call it func. In fact, there's a lot of functions in Swift just called lazy function. That's what it's actually called. It's lazy. So anyway, override func view did load. What that is the function that loads. Now, anybody remember from C++ what the function name was to load a form or load an app? Anybody remember? It starts with an M. Main, yeah, submain. Submain, you could put anything in submain, right? And it will load your app, right? Start running. Here in Xcode, and it was this way with Objective-C2, it's view did load. View did load is like a main in C++, or in VB, like a form load. And so here's where it goes to, because this is the de facto view. It's going to go to the view did load first, and notice it says here, super.viewDidLoad. Super.viewDidLoad, by the way, is in every view. It's in every view. You won't leave it out. It stays in there. It's basically just help with the app to manage memory. So we'll never mess with that. The next line says, let scene equals game scene size view.bound.sign. Game scene, you might see on the left side somewhere. Everybody see that? The game scene on the left side? The game scene is actually this game scene .sks. If you click on that, it looks like this screen here, just a gray screen. The next game scene.swift actually has some code in it. All right? Go back to the game view controller. So what we're doing here with this let, anybody remember what let does? Is this going to be a constant or a variable? It's going to be a constant. So this scene is a constant, and everything that's in the scene now is now in the word scene. Then the next one is going to let skView equals view is skView, I'm sorry. And SKView is basically a type within SpriteKit, which, by the way, we couldn't use that SKView if this import statement wasn't up here. And import statements on Xcode allow you to have all the methods and properties of that import. UIKit is pretty much in every view. SpriteKit would not be in every view. It would only be in views where SpriteKit's created, which is that's what we're doing here. So SKView is a method of SpriteKit, and notice it has in SKView show FPS. Anybody know what FPS stands for? Yep, bytes per second. And so basically you'll see that on the bottom right of the screen, and you'll see basically the numbers moving of how many per second. It's true. So if you didn't want to show that, and you would only show that generally during development, but some developers like to keep it in there even on live in some scenes possibly. Show node count, true. Show ignore sibling order, true. Show scale mode, resize to fill, so it's going to fill the entire screen when this app runs. And then the last one is going to present the view to the scene. The scene is going to be presented in the view. So let's go to the game scene.swift, and on the upper right corner, if you look on the overhead here, see where it says no selection right now? If you click on that no selection, you'll get a drop down of a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of functions. Excuse me. I want you to go to the, let's go to the add monster function. The add monster function. Okay, I'm just picking one here. The add monster function adds monsters to the scene randomly as they come in. It gives in here the size of the monster, the dimensions of the monster, where it's going to be coming in, where it's going to be spawned randomly, it's going to be spawned, in this case it is going to be random, or is it going to be a exact spot on the screen. So that's basically what this add monster function is doing. Now let's go to the gameOverScene.Swift. This class allows us to tell the user and keep track of whether the user's winning or not won. And it gives you that little prompt on the screen when the game's over. In this app, the way it works is you win if you kill all of the objects as they come through. You lose if any object goes by you without you shooting it, I believe, the way it works now. But you can change it. You can change it and modify it. So let's go ahead and do this. Go back to the top left app, which is the SpriteKit simple game. We've looked at so far the main storyboard where you lay all your stuff. We looked at the class game view controller, game scene, game over scene, and now we're looking at the project level. The project level shows you this is made for an iPhone right here. Deployment's iPhone. It's made for landscape, left and right only, not portrait. They're unchecked, meaning it will run in landscape only, which a lot of games do too, right? In landscape, force them in landscape to run for real estate. And so that's all you need to know right now. So let's do this. You'll notice a little play button here. We can play this by clicking on that, or I like to use shortcuts. I don't know about you guys. Shortcuts are great, keyboard shortcuts. So Command R. If we do the Command button and the letter R on your keyboard, it should begin to compile this app. And this is going to take a little bit because it's the first time you've compiled it, unless you've already been playing with it, and it's not going to take that long. But the first time you compile it takes a little bit on games, and any app pretty much you create in Xcode. It can be a small app. It's going to take a little bit. Now, let me give you a word of warning. When you're compiling and working in code in Xcode, don't use anything else on your machine. Meaning, you can have up a website, you're looking at a reference or something, but don't be like listening to music, playing games on Facebook, Twitter, because that'll take up processing power that Xcode needs. All right, and so by playing with it outside of Xcode, it's going to take much longer to compile. It does use a lot of resources to compile the code. It does, and that's normal in most developing platforms. And so you'll notice it's doing absolutely, you say it's absolutely doing nothing right now. Well, it is. If you notice on the bottom right of your screen, there should be an iOS simulator somewhere. You don't need to click on it right now because it'll automatically pop up when it's finished. but you should have an iOS simulator. And what it's doing is it's iOS simulating an iPhone 6. Okay. We can, by the way, simulate other devices like iPads, iPhone 4, iPhone 5, all the way back to iPhone 4.5, I believe, all the way up to 6 Plus on the iPhone. And then on the iPad, if this was an iPad app, we could simulate it as an iPad. Now, I do recommend if you're making an iPad app, simulate it always in iPad 2 mode because it's much quicker. Anybody have an iPad Air, or people have an iPad Air? iPad Airs take up boatloads of processing power, like 10 times as much processing power. And so if you simulate something in iPad Air, it's going to take forever to render. But iPad 2, not so much. And so the first time that you're out of the box here, again, it's going to take a little bit, but mine's finally going, it looks like. Just let it sit there. And eventually it will go to the full landscape mode here, and then we can begin playing with it. If we get an error, we can if we get lost connection, which you sometimes might get, like I just got, I can click OK and recompile again, do a Command R. Worst case scenario is I have to kill that, I might have to kill that iOS simulator altogether and close it out and restart it again if it doesn't go this time. Sometimes you have to do that. It doesn't crash, it just kind of doesn't have enough memory in your Mac, maybe it just locks up at that time. And so if this doesn't work this time, I'll show you how you can kill the, okay, so it is working. So I let some through, and I lost. Now, you guys can play with me as you get going. But basically the object of this is you point your mouse towards the object, and then you have to kill. In this level, you literally have to kill you cannot let one enemy through, not one. Now, technically, in most games, you would allow some enemies to go through, but this one initially you don't allow any enemies to go through. And so it's pretty near impossible sometimes for brand new users to do it. Even myself, who's played this tons of times. I want to show you guys the sound effect on this one. There you go. You'll love it. You'll like it. Here you go. While you're playing it, I'll turn up my sound. That's why I crashed it. No, this one never wins. This one never wins. It's an infinite loop.
Oh, I thought that one, if you hit 30 characters.
It might be 30. I don't know.
It says you won, and then it just restarts.
Restarts. Okay. So 30, I guess it is. But no, we'll. Yeah, you can play with that. But anyway, that's what it basically does in a nutshell. But I wanted to get the sound effects here because they're very fancy sound effects, very high-end, high-tech sound effects here. The worst sound effects ever. Okay. Anyway, that's the app in a nutshell. And granted, you would go in and tweak the, make the monsters, it's right here with the logic. If it's greater than 30, game's over. There's the logic, by the way, for the destroying the monsters more. You can make it less than that if you wanted to. Play with that. And so anyway, what we're going to do now is leave this up in front of you. If you go back to, and by the way, to stop the app from running, you hit the stop button here. Okay, you didn't figure that one out. Stop button. Also, we want to show you one more thing here before we go to the tutorial. Here's all the simulators on my Mac, which you guys should have the same. Okay, all the different simulations that you can choose from, which is all the oldest to the most recent iPhone, iPads that are out. So let's keep that up in front of us and go back to our week 1 tutorial. And there's a link. Oh, my screen recorder died. That's probably why I'm running out of memory. There's a link at the bottom here for tutorial. And so if you click on that tutorial online link, it's going to bring you to Ray's site, and I'll get started here with you and then let you go at it. It's 10:15, so I'm thinking I'm going to call in the pizza. I want you guys to get started here, and then I'll help walk around. But I'll get you started on what to do. So what's nice about this is you can use the website to copy and paste your code or type it in. Not a lot of typing, but there is some. Okay, so once you click on the link, it brings you to this page. Come down to where I'm at on the web page where it says Hello Sprite Kit. It tells us where to get started. We have to start with Xcode 6, specifically Xcode 6.2. You always do a file new project to start a new project. You select whatever type it is. In this case, we're selecting a game type. Selecting next. On the naming of it, trying to think. Sprite Kit simple. Let's name it something different. Product name, I want you to name it your last name, Sprite Game. Let's do that. Your last name, Sprite Game, instead of what he puts here. I want it to be different than the name that's already out there on your repo that you already cloned to the Mac. For organization name, instead of the Raiseware LLC, we're going to do Rock Valley College. And I'll write this on the board. Rock Valley College. For the next one, instead of the com there, we're going to do this one here. So I'll put up all the information here. So you're going to do Rock Valley College for the organization name. For the one under that, the field under that is going to be edu.rockvalleycollege. It's kind of a backwards domain kind of thing that Apple uses, but you have to have something in there like this. So edu.rock, instead of Rock Valley College edu, it's a backwards domain, so it's edu.rockvalleycollege. So I told you the product name change, told you the organization name change, organization identifier, language is Swift, and then we're going to choose iPhone. So let me do that with you real quick. I'll do it with you on the overhead. So if you want to go back to Xcode, I'll walk you through that part together. So let's go to the File menu together in Xcode. Go to New, Project. And what type are we going to select? Game. Select Game, and then select Next. And then here you're going to put last name, Sprite Game, or Sprite, whatever you want. Sprite Game, Sprite Kit's fine. Organization name, Rock Valley College. And then organization identifier, edu.rockvalleycollege. And you should see a bundle identifier that says edu.rockvalleycollege. The name you put up on product name. Language is going to be Swift, Game Technology, Sprite Kit, and devices, iPhone. I'll leave mine up there. This is what you need to make sure yours looks just like this, except for the product name is going to fit you personally. Make sure yours fits just like this before you click Next. We will be saving this to your desktop after you click Next in just a second, but I won't go further until everybody's got that. So if you want to kind of look at me when you've got that done, that way I kind of know you're there. All right, need a hold up for anybody? Okay, so let's go and do Next. Once you do Next, we're going to select the desktop on the left side. So under Favorites, click on Desktop. And uncheck source. If yours is checked that says Source Control, Create Git Repository, uncheck that. We don't want to do that because we're going to be using GitHub instead of the Mac's Git Repository. So make sure that's unchecked. Make sure Desktop selected. And then that's all you have to change on the bottom is the unchecked thing. And then click Create. Once you click Create, I'm going to flip back over to the website because you guys will be doing that as well. Once you click Create, it says here, I'll scroll down to where it's at there. All right, yeah, we did that. Initial setup, we're now here. So I'll let you start there on the initial setup. Make sure you just follow the directions because he has you uncheck some things and check some things on the device orientation and then keep going from there. If you don't feel like typing some of these in, you can copy and paste if you want to. It's up to you. I would recommend typing it in, but it's kind of hard going back and forth on a web page sometimes because you're not visually seeing it. You don't have two monitors here. So I understand you want to copy and paste. It's a lot easier. And so we'll do it that way if you want to. And then that way we can get done a little quicker and you can see how it works. So I'll walk around after I call in the pizza here right now. I'll walk around and see if you need any help. But just follow the steps that Ray gives step by step. It's excellent steps, excellent resources here. Don't miss a step here. And do exactly what he tells you to do. When you get down to the very bottom, I'll go and scroll down there to the very bottom of the game over main part. It should end up, the very last thing you do is, you'll notice here on the overhead, there's one or two buttons like this, by the way, where it says Show Solution. Click on that show and it'll give you some helps to help you explain what he's talking about. But basically when you're done, it'll look just like the game we just played, basically when you're all done. Okay? So go forth and conquer here and take your time, and I will walk around and help after I call in the pizza. And by the way, I'm going to get pepperoni and cheese. Is that good for everybody? Is that fine? Okay. No arguments there. All right.
Figure out figure out how to do that.
Oh, do you mean close it out?
Well, no, just actual.
Reset it? You want to reset the simulator back to default install of the like a
because you know how like when you have to compile it, where it takes forever to compile because it's like running out of memory.
yeah.
Clear out the folder and then
On the new Xcode, it does it automatically. On the new version, yeah, you don't have to do that anymore. It cleans it up for you. But you can reset the simulator if it gets full, like the simulator device gets full of apps. You can reset that, because sometimes I've had to do that before. And then also too, you might just, it's easier now, all you have to do is actually go to the simulator and go to quit it. Just quit the simulator altogether. You just go to the simulator itself here, and just go up to iOS simulator, quit it. When you do that, it clears it out.
well, I was having the opposite problem. Like when I go to compile, it goes to a black screen.
Yep.
You have to wait about, I don't know, 30 seconds.
Yep.
That,
That's normal. Yep, it's recompiling. right, pizza will be here 11:30. How are you guys doing? How you doing, Brian? How you doing, Benita? You help? Which one is it now? Okay. Go back to your example here. It looks like, let's see, you got your import statements. Oh, I know what it is. You selected Objective-C instead of Swift. So go back and just start over again. Don't worry about it. It'll take just a second. Just go to the File menu inside of Xcode. Go to the File menu, close project. And then File again. New project. And I'll watch you here. And then next. And then just go put Benita and name it something a little different, whatever. Like put the number 2 on the end of it or something. That'll work. And then make sure on the language to select Swift instead of Objective-C. And then Sprite Kit, yeah, you're good. And then iPhone, yep, next. There you go. Create. And now go and uncheck what are the portrait you gotta do. I think that's it, right? And then click on what? Game scene. There you go. Yeah. Let me see. Game view controller. Yep. There you go. Now it looks better. How you doing over here? Do what now? Yep. Yeah, let me go over that real quick. Some of you are that place already. When you get to the area on your tutorial where it has you download some files and drag them in, how many is there yet? On your, okay, cool. Let me show you real quick. I'll go and click on mine where it says click on the first download the resources. I'll do that. Should be a zip file, I think. Save that. And I'm going to go to that folder where they're at and double click on it. All right, so there's the folder. And all you got to do is this. In Xcode, I'll resize my screen here. Let me go to the instructions here real quick. So we drag them into the Xcode project and make sure and copy the items into the group's destination folder. And there's actually a checkbox that says copy items into groups folder. So I'll show you that real quick. So all I need to do is take this folder here, drag it into the project. You might resize it to where it fits a little nicer here. Drag it right into your project, just like this. It'll show a green plus there. Release it. When you release it, this screen will pop up. Make sure, this is real vital, you check that copy items if needed. Leave everything else as is, and just click Finish. What it's going to do is bring in that folder with those images and sounds in there. Okay? So again, I'll do it one more time. You download the folder. He tells you to download the zip file, extract it, and then once it's extracted, you drag that folder into the project, release it. When you see it, the plus sign show up, release it right here, just release it, and then make sure and click on that copy items to group and finish. I think that's the only objects you need to add, but I'm not for sure about. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, you're good. So if you need help with that, let me know. It's the first time doing it, a little tricky, but after you do it the first time, you're okay. Yeah, so that link there. Oh, you already did it? Awesome. Good. Not too bad. And you can turn your sound up once you start playing with it. And I'll show you in a second. Here's some stuff you can do to tweak it. Like maybe instead of 30 to win, maybe change it to 10. And then maybe also change it to where it allows more people through, more enemies through before it dies, before it kills you. And game over. Just a couple suggestions, but we'll go over that once you get this all working successfully. Yep. Mm-hmm. Do what now? Okay. Did you do your import statement at the top on the Spark kit? On the UI kit? Go back to your example. Let's see here. Well,
game control, I did that.
Yeah, game scene Swift only does not have it. It just has the sprite kit. Let's see here. So where are you at here on your steps here? Let's go to your other one here. What functions that add monster function? And what the game Swift, scene Swift, add monster. You're missing an input here. Okay, trash your game scene, right? .sps. Probably afterwards as you add it. Always game scene. Oh, you're outside the class. That's the end of the class. This is the end of the class. All these.
All those go like that.
Yeah, these all go in it. So yeah, it looks like you're outside the class. Yeah, you were outside the class. You went beyond the class because that's the last bracket is the outside the class.
So that's
Yes. Yeah, it's closing.
That's that closing bracket.
Exactly. Yeah, every beginning bracket's going to end. It looks like you went beyond the ending class. How you doing over here? And I'll show you some tips and tricks on scoring after you get it running. Like for, maybe let the game go longer before you, or game over, let some more enemies come through. And once you get finished successfully, just a challenge. I'll help you with it in a second. Give you the answer, but see if you can figure out a way to win the code to allow 3 monsters to go out the left side before it ends, and also change it to where the game is you win at say 10 instead of 30, which it is now. See if you can figure out those 2 things. Let 3 monsters go out the left side before a count of 3 before the game's over, and secondly, a count of 10 instead of 30 to win. game scene that's going to be helping that one. Gamescene.swift, by the way. What's nice about Swift, especially with GameKit, is the naming conventions used to destroy things are fairly straightforward. It's not real. You can pretty much figure it out. But I'll give you about 5 minutes to see if you can figure it out. Once I'll give you guys 10 minutes actually. 10 minutes to see if you can figure it out, and then I'll give you some tips here to get started on tweaking this game a little bit. Is that rain? You hear that? Will somebody print stuff out? It's a rain or a copier out there. You want to? Awesome. Okay. How many's done? Done? How many's almost done? All right, cool. I know you can figure out with no problem the winning at 10. The coming off the left side, allowing 3 before you lose, is a little trickier. But the first one I know you could probably get easy. How's it going over here? Any help or anything? Nope. How you doing over here, sir? All right. Brandon, how you doing, buddy? All right. How you doing over here?
Yeah, I was just reading through, trying to see kind of what I was doing here. I like.
Oh, so you're done, right?
No.
No.
I'm all getting closer.
Okay.
I've got it here.
Oh, okay.